It's been almost a year since Wizards introduced the special guest slot in boosters, basically replacing what had previously been the list with 10 cards pre-selected for each set that are not necessarily standard legal, but are based on their legality in their original formats. These special guest cards started out with cards like Mana Crypt and Cavern of Souls in the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, and have continued with thematically relevant cards for each set going forward. For the most part, they've been pretty well received, and almost all of them have had amazing artwork and been really highly desired by people who want to have premium versions of cards. That being said, we've got 10 new special guests for Duskmourn, and I think it's cool to take a look at them. So let's jump into the video. Everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and then click the bell icon if you want to be notified when new videos are posted. We are covering all things Duskmourn, and I will have another video out today for the next Commander deck reveal, which I think at the time of recording this is going to be the black-green. I'm trying to keep up with those because the Commander decks obviously are what a lot of people are really excited about. But today we're going to talk briefly about the special guests and whether or not they're like decent, just kind of go over them a little bit. You know, for those of you who, for whatever reason, missed or skipped the intro, these special guest cards are, you know, in every set now that comes out, they're available in play boosters with an odds of, I think, 1 to 64. So in 1 in every 64 play boosters will have a special guest take the slot of a common in the set. And they're available as well in collector boosters. They're easier to pull in collector boosters, but they're still pretty scarce. I mean, maximum 1 to 2, I think, per collector booster is what you're looking at on average. And I have to say, the artwork has just blown me away on a lot of these. I mean, Bloomborough had cards like the Swords to Plowshares that was just so cool. And I really, really like this concept. I think the list was way too big. It wasn't curated enough. You could pull garbage, so it's like a quote-unquote rare card to pull, but it usually ended up sucking unless you got super lucky. So a specially curated slot of 10 that are actually relevant to the set and are more often than not decent cards is a much more preferable option if they do want to include some kind of chase like this in there. That's just my opinion on it. I know some people will have differing opinions, and I respect that. Obviously, let me know what you think in the comments down below about your thoughts on special guests as a whole. But I have to say, I'm very glad they've stuck with it. I think it's a much better thing than the list. And yeah, so in this set, we're looking at 10, and first up we've got Soul Warden, which is, if you play white, play any life gain deck, you'll be very familiar with this card. It's very good. It's a 1-drop. It gives you life every time another creature enters. Not exactly the most expensive card. It has been printed over 6-7 times at least, if not more, but Scryfall is showing me a whole list of them that include at least 7 different printings. I know the foils typically tend to be a little bit more because it is a bit of a desired card, but this one has some beautiful artwork from Joshua Kairos, and I just think it's overall a pretty good inclusion. It definitely fits the theme of the set, and having a, you know, another, what I would say, premium version of this card where there is also a secret lair drop, but I think this is definitely going to be one of the more premium versions with the awesome artwork is just, you know, a good thing. It'll probably start out relatively inexpensive, but I think over time the card could do pretty well for itself. So I'm happy to see Soul Warden here. Not every card that they put on the special guest slot is going to be some expensive, you know, reprint, which, you know, makes sense. As much as I don't like it, it's from a business perspective, I do get it. But this is a good one. Hallowed Haunting is the next one here, and not only is this perfectly fitting with some fantastic artwork here that really captures the, gives me Haunted Mansion vibes, but it does a really good job capturing the whole Duskmourn plane. But this card is actually really, really good. It has only been printed in Innistrad Crimson Vow, and then it was in double feature. I don't know if we even count that as a real reprint because that set was so big and so not well received that there isn't a lot in circulation. But Hallowed Haunting is, you know, a pretty pricey card, around, like, I will call it $10 at the cheapest. So it's a good reprint here, and it works really well with all the enchantments that are in the set. That this whole set is kind of built around rooms and enchantments, and so this is a very welcome reprint that is also, you know, going to be, I think, desired. So it's a win on both fronts there in terms of value. I also think this will likely end up being the most expensive version of Hallowed Haunting because of the fact that the other premium versions, quote unquote, that exist are not anything special, just sort of like borderless or what have you. There's always the possibility that the foil from double feature will still hold the top spot just because of how hard it is to not only get good foils from that set, but to get anything from that set in general. Expropriate is the next one. This is actually another pretty damn good inclusion, and this is pre-selling, and it's pre-sale, so it doesn't really mean much of anything, but I'm just giving you a bit of a perspective on where sellers are kind of starting with it versus some of the others. It's pre-selling over $30 right now, so that will obviously drop. I just, you know, for full transparency purposes, but it's only been printed, as far as I can tell, twice. It was printed in Conspiracy, and then it was printed on the list, so not exactly very easily obtainable. Another card I think will do well for itself, and it's pretty good. It's, you know, you can kind of utilize this to either take control of a bunch of stuff or get extra turns. Obviously, I think in most cases, players are not going to give you extra turns. However, you can vote for yourself, so you know, it's a good card. It does cost a lot, but we know there are plenty of ways to lower the costs of certain things, especially with instants and sorceries. So I'd say not only a good card, but a good choice for reprint and some cool artwork here. Again, thumbs up on this. Phantasmal Image. This might be my favorite art, or at least one of them out of these 10 here. Just some absolutely sick artwork. Like a bit of a Freddy Krueger vibe there with the claws and stuff. And it's just a solid card. Again, very few reprints. It was in Magic 2012, Modern Masters 2017, and then the D&D Commander decks, one of them, I'm not sure which one. Pretty good card though, can become a copy of anything, and it's an illusion, while also having a downside of, if it's targeted, it gets sacrificed, so it's sort of perhaps a little weaker than some of the other cards that do similar things, but it costs less, so it's got that going for it too. But a pretty good card overall. You know, $6 to $7 at the cheapest, but I think we're going to see demand for this version specifically. So again, not bad. Sacrifice is a card I learned today has not been printed since like Revised, which is kind of crazy. It was printed in the 30th anniversary edition of Magic, but I know that's kind of a taboo we don't talk about because it was a terrible product, all things considered. But this is a good card, and it's definitely a welcome reprint, bringing it back into the game here. I think, again, you're going to see a similar thing with this card, where this version of it is going to do really well because it just doesn't have a lot of other premium versions outside of, you know, beta and whatnot. But you're not really, I mean, the number of people that have it in beta and would be playing that actively are probably a lot less than people who'll be able to get their hands on this. So will it beat the beta price? No, I don't think it will, obviously, but I think it's probably going to end up doing pretty well for itself, all things considered. And the artwork is just sick, really cool, like kind of, I don't know, walking into the mouth of whatever that is here, playing into the theme. Again, I like it. It's pretty good. And I know I try to be critical, and I will be in a minute, and you'll see why. But I mean, when things are good, they're good. I'm going to, you know, give them the appreciation. I haven't seen a single one of these cards that I would be like necessarily disappointed to pull in my box. Obviously, there'd be some you want over others, but as a whole, it's pretty well rounded. Maddening Hex is the next one here. This is another pretty good reprint. It's only been in the Forgotten Realms Commander deck, as well as Mystery Booster 2, which we did a video talking about. I don't know how many people are going to even have access to that, so there's plenty up in the air there. It's a pretty good card that makes it so whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, they roll a d6, and it deals damage to them equal to the result, and then moves to another player. I like that interaction. I think it's pretty cool, and it's just overall decent. Again, this is kind of what you're looking for here. Good art, good value, and just a decent card in general, and that's kind of the trifecta that you really can't complain with this. Unholy Heat, however, is one where I am going to be pretty critical, because this card is like 7 cents. It has been printed a few times now. It's a decent card for sure. And I think the reason it's included here is because it has the Delirium, which plays into the Delirium, which is very much in this set. But it's also thematically very accurate. I don't necessarily hate it, but it's also like, if you're going to pull a Mythic in a special guest slot, it's going to be a card that's otherwise available as a common or an uncommon that's just not worth much of anything. So at this point, you're looking at the art. I think I would be kind of bummed to pull this, even though it does look nice. But if you play the card and you buy them, I suppose, it's definitely not like the worst card you could have. I'm not saying it's a bad card. I'm just saying in terms of choices to include, there's always going to be a couple that aren't great, and this one for me is definitely one that I think falls into that category. Collected Company is a good one that I don't think can ever really be reprinted enough. It's just a really strong card. I remember back in the day when it was in Standard, how expensive it was just for one, never mind a playset. It's definitely dropped since then, obviously. There's a few different versions of it, but it's only been printed in Dragons of Tarkir and then Mystery Booster 2. It had a Secret Lair print and a Play Store Championship promo, but I don't really count those as like wide-scale prints in any capacity. And since Mystery Booster 2 is kind of, we don't even know what that's going to look like yet, and this is only a Future Sight card in that, might as well just say it's only really been printed once in a real set. So a good card here. It's genuinely a really strong card for green. If you can fit the mana values within it, probably one of the best overall inclusions here. No complaints. Just a good card. I don't love the art on this one as much as I like some of the others, but it's still cool. little Scooby-Doo vibes almost, with the gang kind of searching the mansion, but it's neat, and people will definitely like it. Of course, the flavor text survivors who stay together, slay together, not doing it for me, but I think some people will like it, so it is a good inclusion nonetheless. Noxious Revival is another card. This is the one that costs 1 Phyrexian mana, so you can pay it for quote-unquote free. Put target card from graveyard on top of its owner's library. Extremely, extremely good card. Not very many prints here either. A new Phyrexia. I noticed this is also in Mystery Booster too. There seems to be a connection with a lot of these special guest cards that were just reprinted there. I wonder if that was just coincidence, or if there was some, you know, design. I don't know. I'm not really sure what went into it, but this has been on the list. It's been in a commander deck, and now here it's available as a special guest. This is probably going to be one of the more expensive ones as well, just because of how popular these Phyrexian mana cards are and how good this card is in general. I really like the artwork on it, and yeah, I just think it's good. So it's, you know, probably one that people are going to be looking forward to the most. And then the biggest one we've got going here is, of course, Damnation. Now, this artwork is absolutely insane. Valgavoth is featured heavily in the artwork here, the main demon, you know, villain of Duskmourn. Damnation is a card that no matter how many times it's been reprinted, always ends up going back up in value. We see that with a lot of cards. It is like $20 for the cheapest copy. This will be more than $20. I can all but guarantee that. The artwork alone is just unbelievable. And the card itself is great. So when you combine those two things together, this is a special guest that is just going to be very, very highly demanded, and will absolutely be the best thing you can pull out of your boxes that is not, you know, some kind of special rarity upgrade or what have you. And so I think Damnation is a win. I think this card alone would probably be a win for me on this slate of special guests, just because of how much everything about it is just absolutely badass. But overall, this will be the one to keep an eye out for. I think I'm fairly confident in saying that the foil version of this, when all is said and done, will definitely be like near $50, if not more. I could be wrong. Who knows? Based on the way I've seen the market trends go, that's just kind of where I fall with it. So I am super pumped for the special guests in this set, to be honest with you, and I'll probably be buying some of them as singles, hoping that they kind of fall out like they did with Bloomborough. But if you're opening boxes or opening product, you definitely have some potentially really cool hits here, and that's always a good thing to look for when it comes to what, you know, what's essentially a bonus card, right? Like, you're not guaranteed to get a special guest, and it's not even super likely that you'll get one if you open just one box, but there is a lot of potential hits here, and just a flavor wins too. So that's my thoughts on the special guests. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And yeah, what are you guys looking to get most out of this set? What special guest do you think is going to be the best one, and what are you hoping you pull? Or maybe you don't like any of them, in which case I'd like to hear why. So I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.